It's Monday, the 16th of January. I am not long back from dropping my two girls at school, and I am going to have a go at dyeing some yarn with Kool Aid. So if you saw my previous podcast, you'll see I got a dye kit for Christmas, which included some natural yarn and some Kool Aid sachets. I have split that yarn. There was 100 grams of it, just over 100 grams, and I've split it rather haphazardly into two skeins of yarn, so I can have a go at two different methods. I've put them into soak when I got back from the school run. I'm wearing, excuse all the mess in the background, I'm wearing my exercise clothes because I'm going to dye them, and I don't mind about getting the dye on these, although I will try not to. And then I'm going to go and do my exercise while it's all cooling down. So I put the yarn in some water and some vinegar about 45 minutes ago, so it's all sort of soaked and ready. So now I'm going to have a go. I'm going to do one half of it on the stovetop in a pan, and one half of it I'm going to hand paint on top of the table. So I'm going to film it and let's see how it goes. Okay, here's my yarn in the pan of water with some vinegar. I didn't measure it, I just kind of put enough water in to cover the yarn and then squirted some vinegar in. I understand probably the vinegar is a little bit of an optional extra just because the Kool Aid already has citric acid in it, so there's already an acid element in it. So I'm now going to separate these two skeins and put one over on the table for hand painting, and then get the other one onto the stove top to start heating up. So I've just taken this out of the pot. It is all in a skein, and it is all tied at certain points to keep it all together. Yeah, I'm still finding I'm in a little bit of a pickle with it. I don't know if I've done something wrong in the skeining of it. Anyway, I seem to have got a nice circle. So what I'm going to do, what I've got here is I've got the girls' painting mat on the table, and then a bit of paper. A bit of thick sort of paper, and then I've covered it all in cling film, which I think, well, that's what we call it in the UK, cling film, like a clingy plastic wrap that you use for wrapping food. So now I'm just going to sort of spread it out like this. I've watched quite a few tutorials, and I think I've just got to the stage where I'm just going to have a go and see what happens and how it turns out. So it's not going to be a very ordered process. It's just going to be me slapping some dye on, but I want to space it out quite a bit so that the dye has the opportunity to run right through like that before I wrap it up. Okay, so I think that's fine. So now I'm going to mix up the dyes. Okay, so I have mixed up my Kool Aid. I have got grape, green apple, lemonade, blue raspberry, cherry and pink lemonade. I'm just going to take my watch off. Don't want to get dye on it. And I'm going to put on these gloves that came with the kit. I also mixed, so these are all various dilutions. So I put 2 sachets of pink lemonade in this amount of water. And then when I mixed the red and yellow, I then extracted some from each to try and make orange, although I'm not sure how successful that has been. So that's in that. And then I topped up the water again. So they're going to be slightly more diluted. And the green and the blue, they're going to be slightly more diluted because I saved some of the powder because I want to see what will happen if I sprinkle some of the powder. So the idea today really is to just obviously try to end up with some usable yarn, but also I do want to try and use all the colours and get my own sense of how it works. I don't have any squeezy bottles or anything useful like that, so my plan is to just use a spoon to place the dye where I want it. Now the yarn that's on the stove has got up to a really hot temperature without boiling, so I'm going to do that one first, and then yeah, and see how that goes. So let's go and do that. Okay, so you can see that it's all a bit steamy over here, and I've got the yarn sitting in the water, and now I'm going to add my colours. Now what I want to try and do, and I don't have tons of water in here, I did try to keep it so it's just enough to cover the yarn, and what I would like to try and do is try and keep a little bit of white, a little bit of undyed space. I don't know how easy that's going to be, because I'm assuming that once the dye starts going in, it's going to start to spread, but we'll see. So I'm going to start with some pink. I'm just going to start with tiny bits to see how it behaves. Just going to slightly move that so that it can start to drop down. Obviously it will start to spread throughout the water, but I do want to try and not move things too much, because I do want to keep it in one place. And I'm just going to do a bit more pink down there. And like I say, I do want to have a usable yarn. I mean, I suppose if it all goes horribly wrong, I can just over dye it. But at the same time, I also do want to use all the colours, because I want to see how they behave and next to each other, and how it dyes up. This smells really nice. So I'm just getting it into little areas there. Oh, just dropped a bit. I'm assuming as long as I use colours that are fairly complementary to each other, when they run into one another, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. Okay, so that's my pink. I'm going to put some blue now. Just try and do it a little bit at a time. This is a bit awkward. I'm sure this would be a lot easier if I had the proper squeezy bottles to sort of better direct my dye, but we're making do with what we've got. And because this is all food safe, so all I'm using here is, you know, obviously a drink that you could drink, although I'm not sure I would want to drink it. As nice as it smells, if it can dye yarn, I'm not sure I want it in my insides. Whoops. And the only other thing I've got in the water is vinegar. So I'm just using a normal pot, which I will then pop through the dishwasher afterwards. And I'm wearing gloves just to stop my hands from turning funny colours. Okay, so that's my blue. And now, I quite like it just like that, but I think I'm going to be brave and add another colour. I think we'll go for a little bit of yellow, and then what I'm going to do is try and sprinkle some of the powder that I saved to make a kind of speckling, to see what that does. If indeed it does anything, I don't know. I'm just going to put a little bit of yellow just here and there, not too much yellow. And obviously I'm expecting it to, where it mixes with, say, the blue, we're going to get possibly a bit of colour mixing. Ooh, maybe bits of green. Yeah, I can see already it might start to turn a kind of nice light green, which is fine by me. Just going to tip this down the edge so it can start to absorb into the wool. Now I can see that the water is starting to, you know, look a bit coloured in the middle, but I understand that as it cools and absorbs into the yarn, that should, the water should start to look clear. Having never done this before, I can only hope. Okay, so that's my yellow. So I've got pink, blue and yellow. I just need to work out if I want to add any more colours. I don't want it to be too pastel-y. I think it's going to form some natural bits of green. So I'm going to do some speckling now, hopefully. Okay, so for the speckling, I've got this tiny little spoon, which I use for my for when I'm having a cup of tea. It's got a little birdie on it so it can sit on the edge. But it's nice and small, so it's going to be perfect for just grabbing a tiny bit of sprinkle. So I saved some of the green and I saved some of the blue. So I think I'm going to go with a bit of the green, seeing as that's not a colour I've actually used. I'm going to get a tiny bit and just let it sort of rain down a bit. Ooh, no, that's the blue one. And just let it kind of rain down on top, and see what happens, really. I can see that it's kind of speckling into quite a strong colour of green, which is nice. But I don't want to go too overboard, even though it's fun. And this green one smells amazing. So I don't know if you can see that that's causing sort of quite vibrant areas of speckling. What I don't want to do is go so mad that it then just becomes, you know, green. But I do like the effect, so I'm going to do a tiny bit more. So obviously I'm only doing this on the top of it, so I don't know how that's going to affect the look of it overall. I don't want to move the yarn about too much, so I don't want to sort of turn it round, but I don't mind having the white space, so that's fine. So if it is a bit sort of white, more white underneath, that's fine by me. I think we can do a bit more speckles. What do you think? A bit more here. This is fun. I like the speckle bit. There we go. So we do a little bit of blue as well. Right. I think this is the time to leave it alone. Less is more. And we're going to go and have a go at painting the yarn on the table. I'm going to leave this now until it goes completely down to room temperature. And then I'm going to take it out and rinse it and see what we've got. Okay, so now we're going to do the other method, which is in the microwave. So I've squished this skein so that it's still holding a fair bit of water, so it's nice and wet, but not so much that it's running all over the place. And I've got some kitchen roll to mop up any bits that run. My intention now is I want to use all the colours because I want to see what they look like. So I'm just going to do little bits all around and see what happens. And again, I'm going to do a little bit of speckling. Now this is the grape, and from what I can see from looking at pictures, this does come out, you know, quite dark. I can't even tell you how nice my kitchen smells right now. It's gorgeous. A lovely smell. So I'm not fussed about, like I say, I like, when I knit with yarn, I like some undyed space. I think it looks nice. So I'm not going to be too fussy about getting it all in. Obviously I can see that it's soaking through, so I'm happy with that, and I can see that there's some undyed bits, but I like to have undyed bits, so that's fine by me. Now I'm actually going to try and leave a little bit of a space between colours just in case they run towards each other, which I'm sure they will, especially when I start to heat it and wrap it up. This is the cherry. Honestly, this smells absolutely gorgeous. It's so nice. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the less is more attitude, and I can always come back and add more if I want to. Okay, I'm going to go for the blue. Now I think what I'm going to do is do one half of it moulding into each other and the other half not, just so I've got an idea of how that works in the mix. So what I'm going to try and do now is just with my fingers sort of try to start blending the colours in a bit so that they meld into each other a bit more. So if I just smoosh it and then smoosh that. So that's how I want it. I think I would like a little bit of speckling because I'm a little bit of a sucker for speckling. But let's see what happens when we do blue on blue. So this is the blue. Let's see what happens if we just speckle a bit on itself. And then maybe what we'll do is we'll do a bit of speckling on top of the yellow, just so that we might get some flecks of green. I'm quite happy with that now, so I'm just going to wipe up any excess that I've got. And now we need to heat set the colours. So let's just move all this dye out the way. I just realised I didn't use the orange, so let's get that on there as well. I'm not very happy with this green splodge. I think that went a bit too green. Let's see if we can just pour some red on it and get rid of it a bit, dampen it down a bit. Okay, good. So I think I'm just going to do a tiny bit of orange, tiny bit, just with the edge of a teaspoon, like that, in some of the undyed bits. Just literally just a tiny bit, just to see if that, how that worked. Just that. That's fine. Right, now we need to wrap it up, try and keep the colours separate. So I understand that the idea is that you wrap it up, you want the heat to stay in basically, but you don't want it so tight that it can't Oh God, I hate cling film. It's like my nemesis. So I'm just going to wrap it up as best I can. I haven't got any wide cling film, so I've got sort of several bits. I'm just trying to keep it in its position. I am going to have to move it about because obviously my microwave is not this big. I am going to have to squish it up like that. So I'm going to go and get a plate. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to go and put this in the microwave for 2 minutes. Okay, so this has had its first 2 minutes and it feels warm but not boiling hot. So I'm going to put it in for another 2 minutes. So while the hand painted skein is in the microwave for the second blast, I thought I'd come and have a look at what the yarn in the pot is looking like. So the dies that I put in have held their position quite well. They haven't run too much. And I don't know if you can see, but the water is indeed looking a lot clearer. So it's obviously absorbing the dye, which is good. It means I've done something right. This needs to cool right down to room temperature before I can do anything with it. So I'm going to leave this well alone for at least the next hour or so and then come back and check it. Okay, it's just had its second 2 minutes and it's deflating now, but the cling film was like in a big bubble all the way up, so it's obviously got a lot of heat and steam in there. This still feels very hot. I have no kind of gauge for how many times I should blast it, but to touch, it's too hot to touch. So I'm going to say that that has got enough heat in it. It's really hard to see what's happened to the colours in there. So I don't know if they've shifted about or moved or what. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over here next to the dye, this stuff. And I'm just going to leave these well alone for at least the next hour. I'm going to go and do some exercise and I'm going to go and do a little bit of crochet. And I'll see you in a little while to give it a rinse and find out what it's looking like. These are my slippers that my mum knitted me a couple of years ago, and they've got pom-poms on them. I'm all changed, back in the old jeans. I've done my exercise and the yarn is cool. Let's go and have a look. Okay, so it's all cooled down now. This is the one that we did in the microwave. I used quite a lot of cling film and it's a little bit all stuck together. I hope I haven't done it too hot or something. So it's time to unwrap it and see what's happened. I've got a little bowl here with some room temperature water in it, and this is cooled right down now to room temperature, and I'm going to dunk it in the water and then I'm going to give it a really good rinse in sort of tepid water. Something I wouldn't do again is I used the same colour yarn, I don't know if you can see that, to skein it up. I think if I did it again, I'd just do it in a bright red acrylic yarn that wouldn't dye to make it a bit easier to find. Right, so it's looking good. Look how vibrant the red is. And I don't know if you can see the little speckles as well. So we can get it to focus. I'm loving the speckles. So let's give it a rinse. So you can see that the dye has absorbed. You can see the water is clear. So I'm just going to give it a little rinse. I'm just going to give this a good zhuzh. And then I'm going to just try and pick it up in its skein again. And oops. splattering the whole kitchen. I'm just going to try and get as much water out of that. And what I'm going to do now is what I do when I do blocking. I'm going to go and just roll it up in a towel to squeeze as much of the water out as possible. And then hang it up to dry. Okay, so I'm just going to pop that to one side. Okay, so here we have our stovetop one, and that has cooled right down to room temperature. The water's just tepid. So we're going to get this out and into our clean water. So this one's come out a lot more pastel in its shades. It's not as vibrant. Now I did use a lot less dye, and it was more saturated, as the colour was more diluted. But you can see again that the water is running clear. I'm just going to give that one more little rinse. So there we go. That's the stovetop one. So I'm going to go and dry that off, and then when you next see this and the other one, let me just show you. So here they are together. You see the difference in the vibrancy. They both look really good. I'll be looking forward to seeing what they look like when they're all skeined up, and then have a go at knitting with them. So next time you see these, they are going to be in skeins, and we'll get a good idea of what I managed to achieve. Hi, right, it's much later now. It's quite dark outside, and I'm just back from the school run, and I've got a house full of children. Each of my two girls has got a friend round. So I may get interrupted, and I'm not an expert at skeining yarn. But here are our two skeins, all dried. So we're not going to be able to see this colourway particularly well, so I might take some more video tomorrow. But here is the one we did, well I did, on the stovetop. So that's come out quite pale. And then this is the one I hand painted. My skeining skills leave a lot to be desired. So I am really happy with those, and what I'll probably do is take some lovely pictures of them and pop them in at the end of this video. So I hope you enjoyed my little foray into yarn dyeing. It's a little bit addictive and a lot of fun, and I've already placed an order on eBay for another skein, so I can have another go.